Hey everybody, it's me, Jesse, and today has been a tough day. um, all week I thought it was a day later than it really was. So yesterday I thought it was Friday. Today feels like Saturday. I don't know why. I'm not sure why I thought that all week. But I just felt so drowsy today. But I finally managed to wake myself up and start a live stream a little later than normal. Um, You may hear my kids in the background. So my kids are officially home from school for the summer now, and I have a 6-year-old that's very upset about the choice of television show that's on right now. So if you hear any wailing in the distance, that's probably my 6-year-old throwing a fit. Uh, but in terms of code, we're adding a new feature to our admin dashboard, and I'll show you what I've done so far. So I created a new page, the create community page, and in this page, so far we have a image selector. We can add the name, um, a description, phone numbers. Right now, we're accepting phone numbers separated by commas, so multiple phone numbers. I may change that though. Uh, that was something that we had done because we had to do it that way. But I think there may be a better way to do that. Then we have city, state, latitude, and longitude. This is also something that maybe we can improve upon at some point, like maybe some sort of tie into an API where we could get the map data and not have to manually put this in. But for now, I'm just trying to recreate an experience that we have on Airtable, which Airtable is like database as a service software, and it's been nice for us because we've been able to set up with very little code a way for people who aren't programmers to input data. But we would like to have it on the admin panel. It's a nicer experience. We have a few Lambda functions in the running on our backend that we really would rather not have. They're kind of like getting data in the background periodically. So they're running checks and using up resources when they don't really need to. This way, we could just create communities, push them right into our DynamoDB database, and save some money on resources. All right, so let's get into that. Hey, John's here. John said I had to prove to my wife it wasn't Thursday. All right, so I'm not the only one who is confused about what day it is. John says regex or regex, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, is great for phone numbers. Yeah, it is. We may end up adding that. For now, I'm not worried about the format, but at some point we can improve upon this form. But for now, we have enough fields that I feel confident that we can put the data in because well, I have the schema here. Let me show you the schema we're working with. And in the schema, everything that has, this is a GraphQL schema, everything that has a exclamation point is required. So the ID gets automatically generated on the back end if we don't add it. And then the name, but there's nothing else on the schema that's required. At least I didn't see anything. So that's really all. So really, as long as somebody puts a name in, they can submit. They can create um, a community. There's a few other things that we probably should add in, like a community type selector. Just to test this out, I'm going to leave out the type selector at first. Um, let me let's go to the actual code. Sorry, the really annoying song came on my Spotify, and I gotta change it. I was like giving me an instant headache. Let's see. So in our component here, we have some text fields, just some normal text fields from Material UI. So we're pulling these in. We've reused the same image selector that we're using in several other places that we've gone over in previous streams. And the only different thing that I've done is we have a multi-line field for, oops, the phone numbers don't need to be multi-line. And the description field's multi-line. So if we wanted to, we could add lots of lines here. And then I added the type of number to our text fields for latitude and longitude. So I'm going to try to type in letters and it won't let me. I'm trying to type letters right now. Nothing. All right. So actually, let me make sure I can put dot. Yep, I can. And we can also put in negative, which is important for latitude and longitude. So we're good there. And for right now, the state are just like text fields. We could potentially put in fields that would be like a selector. So we could put in like a set list of states and then make it a drop-down selector. But I want to leave it as is for now. We potentially are going to have communities outside of the United States, so I don't want to limit people to just US locations. Now, what we haven't done yet is we haven't set up the GraphQL mutation. So the image mutation already works. Okay, that's because we pulled that right from other components where it's working. But our mutation to create the community, right now I only have user ID, which we don't even need to add in here, but that was just kind of left over from before. So we can pull out this current authenticated user stuff. And now we don't even need to bring that in. Looks like there's some more stuff I brought over that I don't need. Let's take this out. Take that out. Input label, form control. There we are. Clean it up a little bit. And you can see we're just using local state for everything. We do have an email field that I didn't put in yet. And this was, again, a thing where currently we can put in multiple emails, but I think we may want to limit it just to one for now. I don't see... It seems like a lot of communities don't have any phone numbers or emails at all, so trying to do something special just to add multiple phone numbers or emails doesn't seem like a big deal right now, although we may need it at some point. All right, so now we're going to take out this user ID and we're going to figure out where to put, based on our schema, we're going to figure out what we need to put in here. So we definitely need name. All right, that's required. So let's add name in here. And since we named our state name, we could just put it in there just like that, and that'll work. Okay. So we need name. We also have description, which is named the same thing as in our schema. I like to name it all the same thing. That way it's easy to keep things straight, but I don't necessarily think that everything is named the same. Although if it works out like that, then that'll be wonderful. All right, what do we have? Latitude, longitude, city, state. I'm going to put those in because I think they're all the same. Let's see. Latitude, longitude. Do we have a city field? I don't think so. Oh, yeah, we do. City and state. Awesome. You can see the schema is a little bit cluttered, right? We have something specific for Airtable, like Airtable images. We have an image and a featured image and phone number and phone numbers. We also have a website, which we might want to put in there, although I don't think we're currently using that in the UI on the front end of the app. We have emails and email, right? We have quite a few other things in here, potential fields that we need to add in eventually when this form is complete. But right now I'm going for the minimum viable product version of this form. Okay. So we got a few more people in the stream. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. They don't necessarily have to be related to what we're working with. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I mean, if it's coding related, that would be good, but I guess if you have other questions, I could do my best to answer those as well. All right, so it looks like we will be able to do latitude, longitude, city, state, and let's go right now phone number, and I'm going to change how we display that phone number, and then let's put an email. And we're going to change these. We're going to take out the S's. So just phone number and email. Oop, and we forgot the image as well. What do we call our image? Image URL is what we're calling it locally in our component. But here, I don't know what the image is going to be. Let's see. I have DynamoDB open on my other screen here, and I'll bring this over just to show you what it looks like. So this is DynamoDB. And let's see. I'm trying to look for image. It looks like IMG is what we want to populate because that has the image. Just checking to see if we have images anywhere else. It looks like no. So let's do this. Let me verify that we actually have IMG on here. I didn't see it before, but I guess I missed it. Yep, we do. Okay, cool. And that one we're going to say is image URL because we didn't name that one the same. We need to change our phone number field just a bit. Get rid of the S's. And I'm also going to get rid of this helper text because we no longer want that separated by commas. And let's add a field for email. So we're going to call this email. Give it an ID of email. And change it here. All right, now our new text field we created is connected up to our local state. So it gets its value from the local state value for email. And then whenever we type into this, it gets that event, that keyboard event, and it gets the value and it passes that to set email, which updates our state. So let's save that, verify that everything's working. I am saving that, right? Saving. That's weird. I'll refresh it. Okay. For some reason, it didn't refresh manually, but so this now works. Hey. All right, we got the email. Okay. So now that we have this in here, let's see. Okay, we're going to console log the response. And let's give it a try. I'll put in, I'm just going to put in a name for now. And, oh, you know what else we could do that I didn't put in there? Type. So I'm going to add in type. And the type is defaulting to community group. We have three types: community group, global group, and parish. And I'm defaulting it to community group. We're going to make a select input so we can change this. But for right now, we're just going to pass in the type as community group. So let me save that. Oops. Test community. All right. And I'm just going to leave the rest of this blank for now, just for our test. And I'm console logging the result, but we should also be able to see it in the network tab. And looks like create community. Our community was created. Almost everything is null. You see it created an ID for us. This long ID, which we may want to change that. I'm gonna do that. So no, I think this will be fine. We had a requirement earlier in our project that the names be like more readable and easy to type. But when we create this form, I think that'll solve the reason why we needed that. So I think it's okay that we just get this auto-generated ID. And so we have community group, and then name should be up here somewhere. Oh no, it's all alphabetized. So name here, test community. And that is available in the console as well. So create community. All right, so basically that works. We're able to create a community. We could have filled this stuff in, but it's fine. We know this should work. Basically, if we had messed something up in our inputs, it would have thrown an error. Now let's add a select. We're going to use a material UI select, and we're going to give it these values that I went over just a minute ago. Okay. And I got a question here in the chat. Let's see. John says, does JavaScript keep such variable names in scope, or have you run into conflicts with same names within different code blocks or components, not including past state? Yeah, so in terms of scope with variables in JavaScript, um, I've never had issues within different components, right? Everything seems to be scoped locally. But then like when we use const and let, everything is block scoped. So technically like everything within this component is its own block. And then even within a component, like this would be its own block within publish. So I could name something. So like I have const, name here. I could have const or let name inside this block, and my code editor would probably tell me that's not a good idea, but it would still let me do it. And at that point, it would use the value. Like, let me just see what the code editor says. Right, so I can do this. And then the value of name down here would not be this. The value would then be ATST. All right, so we could do that. And it would keep the block level scope. Now, when you're using var, I believe things are different. So like, that would, let me try it. Let me see what our editor tells us. Var test. Now we're gonna get something. Is it gonna let us do that? Maybe it'll let us do that. At least the code editor would let us do that. But there is not necessarily block scoped. So we may run into issues if we use var. It's been a while since I've messed with this. I almost always use constant let, so I don't even remember what all the issues are when using that. But I do know that constant let are block scoped. Hopefully that answers your question. John says, is that the client user DB where the form data is stored? Yeah, so the database that I just showed was that's DynamoDB in AWS. So that's um, our backend is all through AWS, and the data gets stored in DynamoDB, and so that's why I was checking to see like we have several keys on the schema that could have been the image. I just wanted to see which one are we actually using for the image data. I started drinking yerba mate today. I heard it was good for like energy and focus. I've never had it before. It's pretty good though. I mean, like it tastes pretty good. I don't know. I usually just drink coffee, but I thought I'd switch it up. All right, let's add our select now. Hey Anna, how's it going? Glad you got to catch a live stream. All right, let's see. I wanted to bring up. Here we are. We'll bring it up here. So we have material UI documentation open here. I want to go to where it has select. So this is what we want, just something basic like this. All right, so let's grab the code for this. First, we can bring in select. Actually, I could probably just do it here. Select. Now we can grab the code for the first select. And I guess we could give it a label as well. Just going to copy this. And let's put it up at the top, because what's going to end up happening is, depending on what you select, we're going to show or hide certain fields, because the parish type of community is going to have a lot more fields eventually. So we're going to put this above let's just put it above the name. I'll keep the image at the top. All right. And the value is going to be type. And on change is going to be set type. Why is it giving me this? I don't know why it's giving me that. What's our handle change event? Okay. Event target value. Let's do this instead. So our set type is expecting a string, not an event. So what we're going to do is, take the event here. We're going to do a little arrow function. So we're grabbing the event, passing it into here, and we're going to pass in to set type event target value. And so TypeScript, what is it doing now? Let's say as string. See if that makes it. No. Oh, because it wants it to be this type. All right, let's just let me try. I'm gonna try this TypeScript thing out and see if it works. Let's see if we could do as and um maybe we don't need to do it like that. Let's do it like this. As community group. See if it'll let us put this in. What was the next one? Global group or parish. Hey, that worked. Cool. Um, so now we know that these are our options for our types. And then, oh, we didn't define menu item or input label. So let's do that. All right. And where's our, here we go. Value, our values then need to match. So let's say, community group. This is going to be global group. And finally, parish. All right, let's save that and see if it works. All right, so we can see it's automatically selecting community group. We could set global group or parish. Awesome. All right, that works. Now we need to change the label. Forgot to change the label. Also, we need to add some margin underneath because this is running right into our next component. So I want to give it at least 16 pixels on the bottom. I think will be good. And then we'll add the label would be, I don't know, maybe community type or something like that. Community type, and let's give it style. And the style is going to be margin bottom. Sixteen pixels. All right, not bad. Cool. And since we already set up the state for that, we don't have to connect anything. All right, that'll work for us. All right, I see there's a little bit more going on in the chat. Let's see. John says, depends on how much caffeine per can. I guess it was when I was talking about my drink that I switched to this yerba mate. I think that's how you say it. So I don't, I guess there's a traditional way to make this stuff, but I don't have the traditional gourd for drinking, so I just made it in a French press. And so I'm just kind of like refreshing my cup as I go along. And I tried it straight, just plain, and it was okay, but I added a little bit of cream and or a little half and half and some stevia, and tastes pretty good. I don't know about the caffeine. Like, I mean, I'm still awake, but I don't know that I've been drinking enough of it or drinking it long enough to really feel the effects. So we'll see. If I can't fall asleep tonight, I'll know it's like really works. All right. And it says, I'm fine. Happy to see you coding. Yeah, that's awesome. Happy to have you here. John says, TypeScript just wants me to pull what's left of my remaining hair out. Yeah, no, I started using TypeScript and I lost my hair at the same time. Maybe a coincidence, maybe not. I don't. No, I didn't lose my hair. I actually just started shaving it because when businesses closed down because of coronavirus, and you couldn't get your hair cut, I just started cutting my own hair, and it's much easier just to shave it than to actually try to give it myself a nice haircut. So I've just kept on shaving it ever since. All right, cool. So we have basically a working form to create a community. Now, what are the next steps? I don't know how much more we'll do on the stream today, but here's the next steps coming up that we'll probably do either some of it today or in future streams. We have a lot more here in the, how did I get all the way down there? In the schema that we can put in. So, in particular, we have fields for like the times. So, um, so these parishes, they're like Catholic churches, right? And so they have times for their mass times, confessions and adoration. So we will need to, this mass event, we have a type for this. Interesting. I didn't realize we had a type for this. It won't let me. I was trying to hover over it and see if it would give me what that type is, but that actually could be helpful if I could find the type and see what it is expecting. That would be helpful. But this is going to be a lot of work because the way these fields are going to look is it's going to be like a day of the week. Basically, we'll have fields. Once you select parish, fields will come down and it'll say masses, and it'll have every single day of the week. And then for each day of the week, you could put in basically as many times as you want. So we're looking at, you know, 7 days of the week times. Let's see, we'll have an input for each one. It'll say start time, end time, and then language. So let's say they just have one mass time per week, right? That's you're getting into like 21 inputs. Like it's going to be quite a few inputs. So we're going to have to figure out how to handle all that. Like right now, using local state as we are, like that's not going to cut it. We're not going to be able to keep using just local state. We're going to have to figure out some other way because basically we're going to allow the user to hit a little plus button and add a new time. So each time that plus button gets hit, that'll be like another piece of state that could be in there. So that's going to be pretty tricky. And we're not going to start that on this stream because I think that's going to take quite a bit of time. But I know it's possible, right? There are forums online that do that. And I vaguely remember doing something like that before in React. So maybe I'll have to go back and watch previous live streams and figure it out. But that's how we're going to do it. If anybody has any ideas for how to do that, let me know. But I assume we're probably going to have some piece of state that's going to be an array of objects. Probably look something like this. Let's say masses, set masses is going to be use state, and then it's going to be an array. An array of objects that would be, it would be nested, right? So like it'll probably look more like this. Monday's going to be an array of objects, and each object is going to have starts. It's going to be, I don't know. That's going to be a date, and then language, say Latin. Right? We're going to have that. So it's going to be pretty complicated. And actually, I even forgot it's an array of objects, right? So it's going to end up looking something like this. So we're going to have pretty large, um, pretty large array of objects and nested arrays. Let's see. John says, because it's an app, forms are typically a nightmare for accessibility. Do you need to worry about the same for inputs, drop down selectors, etc.? So for this particular one right now, this is just an internal one for our team. So there's only like 2 people that are going to be using it right now. We don't have to worry about it yet. At some point, we will release a version to users. At that point, we will need to worry more about accessibility. So I don't know on our roadmap at what point we would actually allow users to create their own communities. But we have some time for that. This is definitely like a big step up from what we have, though. What we have is basically looks like an Excel spreadsheet of of basically these fields just in spreadsheet format. And then you don't really have control over when things get created. You have to wait for the Lambda function to try to fetch new data. All right, so this allows you to create it instantly, see it on the app. Trying to see. I really want to see where this mass event type is. Let's see if we can find it, because this should give us a better idea of what we need to pass in. Oh, okay, so it's expecting an array of mass events, and it wants it to be like this. Interesting. All right, let's redo our thing here and see what it wants. So it wants an array of objects that say basically day. Well, I can just copy and paste this over. That's what we'd have: day of week, time start, time end, comment, language. Interesting. Okay. That changes things. That changes how I'm thinking about it. What if, okay, since we're doing it like that, hmm. Since we're doing it like that, what we could end up having is like fields that would be, let's say we wouldn't automatically fill out the days. We would just have it, it would say like mass times, and then we would have 5 inputs. Day of week would be a drop down. Time start, time end would be like time inputs. Actually, this is just asking for a string. So we don't even need to use like an actual date or a date time input. We could just say we want a string and just say how we want it formatted. Comment would be a string. Language, it's asking for a string, but in reality, we could make the language. We probably should make it a drop down. Yeah, I'm thinking for now we should make it a drop down with the most common languages we have in the app. Because I don't really want users being able to type in. I'm thinking down the road, like, or even among our team, let's say somebody types it in like English, capitalized English, or English lowercase English, right? When we try to get that data, if we want to actually do some sort of filtering by it, it's going to treat those as 2 separate things, right? So we don't want it as 2 separate things. So it'd probably be better to have a drop down. So we're going to end up with two drop downs, some type of auto formatted time, and the only one that's going to be just a straight input is going to be this comment input. Like I meant like a straight text input would just be this comment one. which right now I don't even think we display this on the front end. So we may or may not. I might leave that out actually. If we don't have any plans on displaying that, I don't think we need it. Hmm. All right. I kind of want to start building this out a little bit now. I really want to, let's build out a little bit. Let me double check my calendar real quick and see when my next meeting is. And then we'll build out. All right, my next meeting is at 4:30, so I have a half an hour. Let's build out a little bit of this. Let's see. All right, so I have masses here, and it is going to be an array of, since we have the mass event as a type, we could probably bring that in, but they're all just strings, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. All right, so let's see what we can do in terms of inputs. Let's copy, I don't want the number one. Let's copy this. Let's bring that down here. And we need how many fields? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields. Only 3 of them we're going to leave as text fields. So let's copy one of these. And let's copy our select field. Oh, and let's bring in this input label as well. Let's change this to mass times. Let's change the IDs. I guess I don't need an input label here. I just need typography. I'm gonna change this. Oops. So select is gonna be, yeah, we'll need an input label. Mass day. That works. We'll call that day, and then label ID. Is this how we want to do it? Mass day label. What did I do? I messed it up. There we go. Mass day. All right. On the on-change event, let's change this to as string. And then we need to change these. Monday. Monday. All right, I'm just gonna leave it like that for now. I'm not gonna go through all this. Well, let's change some of these. I really just want to see how we would so on change event. This is gonna be so tricky. I want to match up the local state exactly with how we need to do this to send into the database, just to make things simple. So I guess we wouldn't. So the value here would be like masses. Oh, this is going to be so tricky. Um, this would be masses dot masses 0 dot day of week. It's going to be the value. And then when we set this, it's going to be set masses. How are we going to do this? Um, no, that's not going to be it. We may not be able to do this all with regular state. Now I think about this. Um, all right, let's just see if we could do it like this. Unchange, set masses. I know where we can look. Let's look at how we're doing this in create business profile. I think we're doing something somewhat similar in create business profile. So in create business profile, we have is form data, set form data. There we are. Let me do this. No, because we only have one. We don't have an array of objects. Ooh, this is so tricky. All right, how are we gonna do this? I may need to look up some sort of example. Hmm. Let's see. React state update array of objects. There we go. Updating state when state is an array of objects from 2020. So that's pretty good. Perfect. This is exactly what we have. Although they're using this dot state, which is a little bit different, but all right, let's see what this one is doing. All right, so they're using set state and getting items here, which is a little bit different than what we'll use, but they're passing an array. This update item to some attribute new value. All right, so yeah. We could maybe create a helper function and then pass something in like this. So I don't think we're gonna solve this issue today, but it's good that we are thinking about how complex this is going to be. I think what we're going to end up. Hey, Steven, how's it going? Steven's in the chat. It just occurred to me that when I do something like that, I look over at my other screen that you may actually think there's someone in my house that I'm saying hello to. I'm just looking at the chat that's on my screen off to my right, and uh, noticing that somebody else is in the chat. All right, so the plan is I'm not going to have time to implement this in this stream, but I think the plan is to make some sort of helper function to update our times. Um, it'll take, I mean, not necessarily an ID, like basically it's just going to be the index. Um, it's going to take the index and then it's going to take the attributes. All right, and we're going to do something like this so that we can update. I mean, this almost it a little bit like reminds me of Redux, like what we do when we update Redux state. So I don't want to implement Redux just for the sake of this form, but maybe that'll be a good place to just think about how we'll update things. You know, maybe in our function we'll take the entire object, um, edit it, and then update everything with the edited object. So like instead of trying to update to mutate state directly, we'll like make a copy of it, mutate that, and then update the state, which would be closer, I guess, to what Redux does. Uh, all right, cool. So Steven says, I was just working on something like this for a checklist on policies, gave up after one sprint, going back to it next week. All right. Yeah, this is a tricky problem. Actually, I'm kind of happy I ran into this problem because, to be 100% honest, I've been getting a little bored with all these forms. Um, it's just like very repetitive, doing the same thing over and over again. Of like, all right, I have a text field, I have local state. Like this is a problem that takes a little bit more thought. So it almost like woke my brain up a little bit. Like, oh, this is something new. So I'm kind of glad that we have something this complex, just to get my brain working a bit. So it's not it's not quite as boring as like endless text fields. Let's see. Steven says using Formic to kind of handle the state of the checkbox from a list of checkboxes from the back end, complete nightmare. Yeah, I don't have anything against Formic, but I've done a little bit of work with trying to debug and help out. So my wife's a software engineer as well, and a project that she's working on uses Formic. So I've never sat down and tried to learn Formic, but I've tried to sit down and help her debug some of the code, and it's uh it's always been a bit of a headache for me. Um, Probably because I've never sat down and read the documentation and tried to learn Formic. But it seems like it could be good. I know a lot of people use it, so I don't want to pass judgment on it until I've given it a fair try. Um, but I'd like to just do this with our local state if we could, because really, like, there's no reason that we should have to pull in something else for this particular form. I think it's still not as complex. It's not so complex that we need to pull in some outside library. But I mean, if you all think that it might be useful, then let me know. I'm willing to learn something if it will help. But in this case, I still think we can do it. I mean, after seeing this and thinking about it a little bit, I think it's possible. I actually wish I had more time so we could do it on this stream, but I have a meeting coming up, so um, I won't be able. I probably won't get to it today. It'll probably just be stuck in my mind all weekend, and it's a long weekend. If you're in the United States, Monday's a holiday, so you probably won't be working Monday. I probably won't be working Monday, and so now it's gonna be in my mind. I'm gonna be thinking about it. I don't know. Maybe I may have to work on this over the weekend at some point, just to get it out of my head. Um, yeah, but I think we've got a good idea of how to handle it. At least we have a general direction to go in, something to try. As long as we're not out of ideas, then it's still solvable. Um, cool. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna wrap the stream up now. I I had a good time with this stream. It's cool that we got this working on the stream, and we have a nice challenge for our next stream, unless I solve it before then. But even if I do solve it before then, I'll still explain how I solved it on the next stream. So the topic of the next stream will almost definitely be this issue of how to deal with complex array of objects in local state. So yeah, until next time, have a great weekend. Have a great long weekend if you're in the United States. Happy Memorial Day, and thanks so much for watching.